My father never said I love you, never hugged me. Boo-hoo, right? I'm Asian. This is not unusual. So I'm good. Seriously, I'm good. But now that I'm a dad, I decided I'm gonna take things in a new direction. So with my kids, I saturate them with love. Recently, I came across this old family photo. It was this black and white sepia-toned photo of this handsome young Asian man standing on a beach. It could have been an Armani ad. He was very well dressed, khaki trousers, white linen shirt. And on the back of the photo, it read, Dad and Tetsuro, Isle of Wight. You see, I was born in England. And sure enough, that's me. Barely visible, a small infant fast asleep in his arms. And the longer I looked at that photo, the easier it was for me to imagine the rhythmic sound of ocean waves crashing. And I like to think that my father was standing on the beach, looking out across the Atlantic towards the horizon, trying to imagine what life would be like for his young family in Canada. And I was amazed that he could have ever been so large to hold me and that I could have ever been so small to have been held. I guess I'm thinking more about my dad lately because he's dying. I mean, he's not on his deathbed, but between Parkinson's, multiple strokes, type 2 diabetes, which has rendered him completely blind, he doesn't have a whole lot of time left. So I've taken it upon myself to start recording his stories. My father was 12 years old in Japan during the closing days of World War II. And a really vivid memory he has is one he shares with a lot of Japanese of his generation. And that's hearing the emperor's voice on the radio for the very first time announcing Japan's defeat, Japan's surrender. And so while everyone is crying around my dad, my father inwardly is secretly hopeful because he's thinking, well, you know, now that the war's over, maybe my dad will come home. Now, back then in the small town of Kagoshima, the only real form of transportation was the train. And so the train would stop by their local train station once a day. And my father, not knowing any better, would go down to the local train station to look for his dad. And so I stopped the recorder and I say, look, Dad, I'm not saying yours was a fool's errand, but come on, you don't know if your dad's alive or dead. So you go down to the train station on the off chance that he'll just show up. But you're 12 years old and you're doing this every day. How long can you keep this up? A week? A month? And my father said, oh, not very long. Perhaps just over a year. So why'd you stop? There was only one person left on the platform that day, far too old to be my father, but it was him. So I said, Dad, did you run to him? Did you hug him? Did you say, I love you? And my dad said, no, of course not. Dad, parent and child separated for years, not knowing if the other is alive or dead. And the moment you guys see each other, you're telling me there wasn't one expression of emotion, relief, affection, nothing? Come on, Dad, nothing? After a really long silence, my father finally said, it must have been the late afternoon when we walked home from the station because our shadows were so long on the road. And although I cannot be certain, perhaps had my father glanced at my shadow, he may have seen a slight hop in my step. So this year, for Christmas, we're going to do the usual thing, take the family over to my folks. And I suppose the only difference will be this year when we're getting ready to leave and my kids are putting on their jackets, I'm probably going to tell them something like, listen, we don't know how many more of these Christmas days Grandpa has left that we just don't know. So when you give him a hug goodbye, give him a hug he'll remember, okay? And knowing my son Taizo, he's a great little hugger, he's gonna throw his arms around my dad's neck, and my dad's face will brighten because he's blind, but his sense of touch is undiminished. But here's the thing, Taizo will not let go. So my dad will probably start patting his back, and like any normal person, his mind will start to wander. And maybe, just maybe, he'll think back to a time when he was young and strong, and everything that's happened hasn't happened yet. Back to a time when he's not blind, he's just closing his eyes to better feel the weight of the future, fast asleep in his arms, and to better hear the sound of ocean waves crashing. Thank you.